I noticed something strange during difficult economic periods. People don't fall apart as quickly from a lack of money as they think. They fall apart because they lose their sense of control. When the news talks about recession, inflation, layoffs, the first thing that changes isn't the number in your bank account. It's how your brain reacts to uncertainty. I've observed financial behavior for many years. And what's interesting is this. With the same income, the same circumstances, some people move through a crisis calmly, while others panic and slowly exhaust themselves. Not because they're smarter, not because they earn more, but because they understand one thing. When the outside environment becomes unstable, the most important thing is internal stability. Most people don't realize that during a crisis, we're not just facing financial risk. We're facing psychological risk. And if you don't understand that, your emotions will drain your money faster than the recession itself. Today, I'm not talking about high-return investing. I'm not talking about complicated strategies. I want to talk about quieter things, structure, habits, the way you make decisions when pressure rises. If you understand this correctly, you don't need to overhaul your entire life. You just need to adjust a few foundational points, and your money will stand much stronger. Main point 1. Don't try to keep the same speed when the environment has changed. I've noticed a very common reaction. When the economy starts slowing down, many people continue living at the exact same financial pace as before. They keep spending under the assumption that income will stay stable. They keep signing long-term commitments as if nothing has shifted. They keep upgrading their lifestyle out of habit. Most people don't realize that the issue isn't necessarily spending too much. It's maintaining the same speed when the road ahead is different. In good times, speed can be an advantage. In uncertain times, speed increases risk. I've seen people who weren't reckless at all. They simply didn't slow down. They kept expanding when they should have been reinforcing. What's interesting is that slowing down doesn't mean falling behind. Slowing down means paying closer attention. A simple example. If you're driving on the highway and heavy rain suddenly starts, you don't have to slam on the brakes immediately. But you definitely don't keep driving like it's a clear, sunny day. Money works the same way. When the economy becomes uncertain, the first move shouldn't be cutting everything. It should be reviewing. Which of my expenses assume that things will stay stable forever? Slowing down might look like delaying an upgrade, avoiding a new long-term commitment, not increasing fixed expenses unless truly necessary. I've realized that the people who move through crises best aren't the strongest. They're the ones who adjust their pace the earliest. Main point 2. What costs you the most during a crisis isn't prices. It's anxiety. I've noticed something that people rarely admit. When the economy struggles, prices rise and negative headlines are everywhere. What makes many people spend more isn't necessity. It's the desire to calm themselves down. Most people don't realize that uncertainty creates a powerful urge. Do something now. And spending is an action. When you buy something, order a meal, subscribe to a service, you feel like you've regained a small piece of control. What's interesting is that these expenses usually aren't big. They're small, repeated, and completely justified. I've been stressed. I deserve this. With everything going on, I might as well enjoy something. I've seen many people who were never irresponsible with money, but after a few tense months, small, emotion-driven expenses quietly ate into their savings. Not because they lacked discipline, but because they didn't realize they were spending to soothe anxiety. When you start tracking not just how much you spent, but how you felt when you spent it, you'll begin to see a clear pattern. Your most anxious days often become your most financially loose days. If you don't understand this, you'll assume the issue is income, when in reality, it's psychology. Keeping money during a crisis isn't just math. It's emotional awareness before action. Main point 3. The people who protect their money best aren't the ones who cut everything. They're the ones who reduce fixed pressure. I've seen a pattern repeat itself across many difficult periods. When bad economic news hits, the first reaction for many people is to tighten daily spending, cut the coffee, Stop eating out. Cancel entertainment. Track every small expense. It sounds logical, but interestingly, this approach usually works only short term. Most people don't realize that the biggest source of pressure isn't flexible daily spending. It's fixed costs, high rent, large loan payments, long-term installment plans, obligations that must be paid regardless of income changes. When fixed costs are high, you lose breathing room. And when there's no breathing room, even small disruptions feel threatening. I once observed two people earning roughly the same income. One was extremely frugal day to day, but carried heavy fixed obligations. The other spent a bit more freely, but kept their structural commitments lighter. When a downturn hit, the second person remained far calmer because they could adjust. They could trim flexible spending if needed, but they weren't suffocated by unavoidable monthly obligations. Reducing fixed pressure doesn't mean living miserably. It means designing your financial structure so you're not cornered. In uncertain times, flexibility matters more than perfection. Main point 4. Don't use your savings to protect your sense of normal. I've noticed a very quiet reaction when the economy starts getting tough. People don't want to change their lifestyle, not because they don't understand what's happening, but because they're afraid of feeling like they're slipping backward. Most people don't realize that savings are meant to protect stability, but they often end up being used to protect appearances. A simple example: your income drops a little, expenses go up, but you try to keep spending exactly the same as before. You still travel the same way, still upgrade the same way, still spend as if nothing has changed. The gap gets covered by your savings. At first, it feels fine. You're still okay. Life still feels normal. But here's what's interesting. The longer you maintain that illusion, the thinner your safety cushion becomes. And when a real shock hits, a job loss, a medical expense, a downturn that lasts longer than expected, that's when you realize you've already spent your margin of safety. I've seen many people who didn't struggle because of the recession itself. They struggled because they tried to hold on to their old lifestyle for too long. Accepting adjustments isn't failure, it's strategy. When you intentionally lower expectations a bit, you actually increase your level of control. Keeping your money matters more than keeping up appearances. Staying flexible matters more than maintaining your old pace of life. Main point 5. Don't wait for things to stabilize before you start saving again. I've noticed a very common thought during tough times. This is a rough period. I'll start saving again once things calm down. It sounds reasonable. When income shrinks, costs rise, and pressure builds, saving can feel like a luxury. But what's interesting is this. The real issue isn't how much you save. It's whether you keep the habit alive. Most people don't realize that when you stop saving completely, you're not just stopping an action, you're changing how you see yourself. You shift from, I'm someone who always sets aside something for the future, to, I'll save when things get easier. That shift is subtle, but it shapes your behavior later on. I've observed people whose income temporarily dropped. Some stopped saving entirely because the amount felt too small to matter. Others kept the habit going, even if it was just a small contribution. Years later, the difference wasn't only in the numbers, it was in identity. Those who maintained the habit were able to accelerate quickly when opportunities returned. Those who stopped often struggled to restart. Saving during a crisis isn't about getting rich immediately. It's about protecting something deeper, the feeling that you are still steering your own direction. Even if the amount is small, the action is powerful. Main point 6. The more unstable things get, the more you need to simplify your financial decisions. I've noticed something interesting when observing money behavior under stress. When the outside world becomes more complicated, many people try to make their financial life more complicated too. They consume more news, compare more options, test new strategies, move money back and forth between accounts. They believe doing more equals being safer. But most people don't realize that every financial decision drains mental energy. And when you're already worried about work, expenses, and the future, your mental energy is already low. When we're tired, the brain tends to choose fast over choosing well. I've seen people constantly changing how they manage their money during uncertain periods. This month, they follow strategy A. Next month, they switch to B, then back to C. The issue isn't that the strategies are bad. It's that they're not maintained long enough to work. In stable times, optimization can help. In unstable times, simplicity is the advantage. A practical example, instead of opening new accounts, keep just enough to manage clearly. Instead of changing your plan every time negative news appears, set a principle ahead of time and stick to it. When your system is simple, you make fewer decisions. Fewer decisions mean fewer mistakes driven by fatigue. I've realized that the people who protect their money best during a crisis aren't the ones who know the most. They're the ones who maintain the most clarity. Main point 7. Redefine what safe means before you chase it. I've noticed a paradox. When the economy becomes unstable, everyone talks about safety, but very few people clearly define what safety actually means to them. Most people don't realize they're chasing a vague feeling. Some believe safety means having a very large number in the bank. Some believe it means maintaining the exact same lifestyle. Others think it means generating high returns so they don't fall behind. The problem is, if you don't define it clearly, you'll always feel like it's not enough. I've seen people with solid emergency funds who still felt anxious because they kept comparing themselves to a higher benchmark. Meanwhile, someone else simply says, I can live for 6 months without new income, and they sleep just fine. What's interesting is that safety isn't about an absolute number, it's about clarity. When you know how much is enough for you, you stop chasing unnecessary targets. Safety during a crisis isn't about eliminating all risk. It's about understanding which risks you can tolerate. Once you define your threshold, every decision becomes simpler. You're no longer pulled around by daily headlines. You're no longer obsessed with having to do something right now. You just ask one question. Does this situation exceed the safety threshold I've defined? If not, you stay steady. If yes, you adjust. I've realized that calm doesn't come from knowing what the future holds. It comes from knowing how prepared you are. Main point 8. During a crisis, success isn't about growing. It's about not breaking. After years of observation, I've realized something important. Many people enter difficult periods with the same question. How do I keep moving forward? It's not a wrong question, but sometimes it's the wrong goal for the moment. Most people don't realize that in a volatile environment, the smartest objective isn't acceleration, it's structural stability. If income drops, you can still control spending. If costs rise, you still have room to adjust. If plans change, you don't panic. That alone is success. I've seen people who didn't earn a single extra dollar during hard times, but they didn't take on new debt. They didn't sell assets in panic. They didn't dismantle their savings system. When the economy recovered, they didn't need to rebuild from zero because they never lost their foundation. On the other hand, I've seen people try to preserve the image of growth. They invested more aggressively, expanded faster, and one small shock was enough to break everything. Resilience doesn't feel exciting. It's not loud. It's not impressive, but it determines who's still standing after the wave passes. I've realized that staying flexible matters more than hitting milestones. Staying calm matters more than staying fast. Keeping your money matters more than looking successful. If you're in a period of economic uncertainty, don't ask, how can I earn more right now? Ask instead, is my system flexible enough to absorb a shock? If you can answer that honestly, you're already ahead of most people. If these insights resonate with you, hit like so I know this topic matters to you, and subscribe for more content about money psychology and wealth behavior, the quiet factors that shape long-term results. I'll see you in the next video.